Hey, what's up? It's James, and today I just wanted to take a minute just to clarify a few things. First, I want to talk about how excited I am about transferring my license to Simply Home. Simply Home will give me the flexibility that I need to do what I need to do to serve my clients better, the way that I would like to serve them, because I like to offer optimal service and I like to be able to negotiate with people without having to worry about my brokerage setting limits. Now, the objective for me is to sell a house, and mainly on the listing side. However, I do find that I make good relationships with different people when I help people to find houses. And so I don't have a problem with working the buyer side of the transaction as well. The only thing is that, which brings me to why I'm even making this video today, is I've been having situations where people come to me to buy houses and they don't end up buying a house. And so when I do start to help people, it actually costs me from the beginning. And I don't think people realize exactly what that actually means because I never really put it out there. I'm not going to just start making people feel like they need to pay for the expenses that helping them find a house costs me. Even buying a house or listing it doesn't matter. It still costs me from the beginning. I have operating expenses. I'm an independent contractor. I'm not. I don't work at a place. I'm not an employee. So there's no way to be reimbursed for mileage. There's nowhere to be reimbursed for gas, and then you have other expenses. First of all, you have to have a vehicle. You have to have. Uh, you have to replace brakes and everything else. Everybody is pretty much familiar with car maintenance, and that's just an operating expense when it comes down to helping the clients. Now, as of recent, I have started implementing the deposit. And I actually had someone to tell me that I should be reported because I explained to them that I could show them so many houses, and after those houses were shown, after that number of houses were shown, then I would need a deposit to continue. And it's basically because the deposit is securing me and my expenses as I assist the buyer or the seller. Because sellers you have to buy ads, they want an open house. There are different things that sellers need as well. And what I do is actually a business. Now I hustle at getting clients and I hustle at what I do, but it's not a hustle. It's actually a business. And that's how I have to operate in order for it to actually make sense. And I'm not operating to pay operating expenses. I'm operating as a business to make money to pay for my actual bills in my life and my expenses, just like anybody else that goes to work. When people get off work, they expect me to be available, and I am. When people are at work, I'm actually trying to accomplish their objectives or doing something to get to that point. So when they get off work, we can go ahead and move forward. And the time that we spend on the phone, the time that I spend send listings, I have to pay for the systems that are in place for me to be able to do just that. I make everything convenient, and it costs me. I try my best to do a good job for everybody that I work for, but sometimes the expectations are just unrealistic. People don't realize that the things that they are asking me to do are more than what they realize because I just make it happen. As I should, and that's what I do. Now, the market is the market. The houses out there are the houses out there. As far as the buyers, when I put the listing together, I put the listing together based on the criteria that they tell me. And I'm typically doing it when they're telling me. So I will log into the MLS. I'll ask how many bedrooms, bathrooms, what are locations, up to how much. But we can't actually know how much until we have a pre-approval letter. Once we had a pre-approval letter from the bank, then the bank or the lending institution or the mortgage broker or loan officer from wherever, they use the debt to income ratio to determine how much the person can actually afford. So we need to find out how much you can actually be approved for first before we can realistically start looking for exactly what it is that the buyer wants. Once we find that out, then I adjust the listing that I've already put together for nothing, and then we go from there. And we try to find exactly what it is that someone is looking for. Now, I'm the first to tell you that expectations sometimes don't get met. Expectations of the market, expectations of how the search should go. Because as far as the market goes, home prices have been rising over the past years. And at one point, they were unrealistically low. It's more the materials and the labor, either or, in and of itself, costs more than properties costed some years ago. But now, home prices are pretty much at an all-time high. And that is because of the principles of supply and demand. So when a person actually is looking for a property, they have unrealistic expectations sometimes, which causes them to get discouraged for not being able to find exactly what it is that they're looking for. Say, for instance, in Oakland County. Right now in Oakland County, if you're not spending more than $200,000, you're probably not going to get exactly what it is that you want. And for $200,000, it's not going to be a whole lot of square footage. It's not going to have a whole bunch of extra stuff that you might actually want. Now, when you're spending $400,000, $500,000, then you start getting into what you actually want, depending on what you want, because your taste might exceed that. And you might look at the $400,000 house and say, hey, I want more. And I understand that. And that's why, right from the beginning, we need to be realistic in what exactly it is that you're looking for in comparison to what's actually on the market. And that's what I try to do. I try to be realistic about everything. Now, we're talking about the buyer side, but let me go to the seller side for a hot second. When the seller comes to me, actually, the first thing that I should be doing is being very realistic, which that's what I'll do. I'll tell someone exactly how much I think that the house might sell for, and I'm going to even talk it up just a little bit because I understand that we're trying to get the most for the property. Now, getting the most for the property requires for a seller to actually make sure that the property is in absolute best condition. So if you got a rehab and you have shoddy work, that's going to count against you. If you maybe air conditioner or furnace is not in tip-top shape, that's going to count against you. So the first thing that we have to do is make sure that the property is in tip-top shape. And if it's not, and we're selling it as is, which is the case a lot of times, that we price it properly. And if we don't, and we put it a little higher because the seller wants, I'm not going to just say, hey, we can't do it. Although I may say, okay, we can try. And once we try, if we're not successful, then would there be a problem with reducing the price in X amount of days or maybe after a month or so, because we see that nobody's biting. And at the same time, I still won't make a big deal of it because you have to be able to get what you want for your house if you want to sell it. However, that does affect my record, because days on market hurts me when I go to someone else and say, hey, I can sell your home or I can sell your property. And they look at, well, you've been had this on the market for 6 months. And how are you gonna sell my house fast? And that might make somebody go to somebody else. So it actually hurts me when I do it that way, but it's not about me. I'm trying to do what it is that will make my client happy. Now, another thing that I get a lot is because as a listing agent, I do extra. I have cleaned up the yard for people to give the property curb appeal. I have made repairs. I've replaced windows, doors, doorknobs, drywall, repair holes in the drywall. I've cut down trees. I've done quite a bit. I provide home warranties for my sellers as well, as long as it's for the commission that I'm supposed to receive. I conduct open houses. I normally conduct open houses at my expense. Now, I'm doing it because I should be reimbursed when we close. However, that's not always the case, because I've had sellers who decided to withdraw the property from the market and we never sold it. And I spent my time and my money and to trying to sell the house for the people, and they take up the time that I should be spending with somebody else that's going to actually help to pay my bills. So that is why I will have to start requiring that the deposit. So from the seller side and the buyer side, I will be needing a deposit. The thing is, a deposit will be a credit at closing to my client. So as long as we don't use up the deposit or whatever the terms that we agree on, then we will be able to add or deduct that deposit to your closing. So basically, if there's a seller, then it's pretty much simple. We sell the house. We already agreed on a percentage, and we'll just call it 3%, because that's typically what we get paid for selling a house. I might do it for 2.5%, and depending if it's just a listing only, then it may be 1%. But whatever the percentage is, if I have a $500 deposit, then that $500 will be deducted from what's owed to me or my brokerage at closing. It's already been paid for, so there's nothing extra being paid. And the same goes with the buyer. The buyer, if the buyer gives me $500 and we haven't exceeded the number of houses that I've agreed to show, or the number of offers, or however it is that we agree to when we sign the contract, then that $500 will be deducted from what's owed at closing. The thing is, generally, the buyer doesn't pay the commission, so it goes to them as a credit at closing. So, as an example, if a buyer gives me $500, and I say, okay, I'll show you 10 or 15 houses. When we get to closing, if we haven't exhausted all of the number of houses, then that $500 will go to the commission, which is being paid by the seller. So it's not even going to that so much as it is to actually getting to you as a closing cost, a credit. So what you do with the credit is up to you. Maybe it might be enough to put with or to account for a point, and you can buy your interest rate down possibly. Maybe You might want to buy a home warranty with it. Maybe you might just put it towards your down payment. Either way, it's yours. It's not going anywhere. As long as you buy a house, it's not going anywhere and it's still your money. Now, if you don't buy a house, then it's non-refundable. So we can't expect me to pay for endeavors that don't end up with a commission. I who can afford to take the time and spend the money on somebody's expedition that's going towards nothing? This is business. It's not personal. It's business. Again, this is not a hustle. And I'm not trying to hustle you or anybody else. And at the same time, I'm not trying to be hustled either. I have been taken advantage of many, many times. I have taken time and driven all over not even just the Tri-County area, but more like the Quad County area. I've been all over the place just to not close. I keep ending up at the gas station. I keep ending up at Callahan's to get my brakes done. I've had suspension work done. I had to have transmission work done. I have all of the expenses that anybody has, operating expenses, and they include MLS fees, board fees, NAR fees, or dues rather, office fees, software fees. Like, this is business. It's business. I'm not trying to get over on anybody. Now, what I do is extra because regardless, buyer or seller, you may need a Home Depot run, a Lowe's run. And if you need to pick up some cabinets, you need to pick up a TV, you need to have something moved from where you lived at to where you're moving to, where you're moving out and you need something moved out. That's why I pay for a truck, so that it can benefit my clients. I didn't buy a truck. I didn't spend a lot of money and I don't pay a note every month on a truck because I just like trucks. I did this because I wanted to have an advantage for my clients. Sometimes you have to pay somebody else to move something for you, but that's not what I do. I try to be more than what you need. I could easily say, hey, get somebody to move that, and I can give you a number for somebody who can move it. But it's not required, but I try to make it convenient for my clients. If you work with me, I'm going to work with you. I even had a box truck. I had to get rid of the box truck. It just didn't make sense for me to continue to pay insurance. The people who I actually used, who wanted the service, I did help people move. I didn't charge them extra. And I did not buy the box truck because I wanted to start a moving service. I just wanted to have that extra help for my clients, my real estate clients. I'm not looking to go do yard work. I'm not looking to do moving. I'm not looking to do repair work. I'm not a handyman. I know how to do work. I could be a handyman, but I'm not. I'm a licensed real estate agent, a realtor. If you need assistance with selling or buying a house, then I can help. In the wintertime, when we have showings, I clear out the driveway and walkways. I put down calcium chloride at my expense. And I take the time to do it because I care about my clients. If I'm trying to sell a house, and I've done it for buyers too, I get out there and clean the yard up, make it look good. If there's any repairs that need to be made and I can make them, If there's maintenance to be done, maybe even deferred maintenance. If I had to get on the top of on the roof and I had to clear out the gutters so that when the inspector gets to the house, they won't have that complaint. They can say all clear. And then we can have a smooth closing rather than to have you pay concessions to the buyer. And that's if you don't know what concessions are, that's when you pay towards the buyer's closing costs. And I don't want you to have to do that. So I'll do what I need to do. And we replace a filter in the furnace. If whatever it is, we can try to work it out. Now there are cases when it's something that I can't do. And most of the time, I am able to find you who you need or already mainly know who to call to give you options. I never want anyone to just automatically go with the first option. Right from the beginning, the loan estimate. I mean, when you go to get a pre-approval, you should not just go to one person. You shouldn't just go to one loan officer. You should contact at least three. You go to the three, you apply with all three. It's not like if you buy a car with the inquiries. It's not like if you apply for credit cards with the inquiries. Shopping around for a mortgage is a responsible thing to do, and the credit agencies understand that. So if you apply with three different people, it's not going to be a bunch of inquiries. It's going to show up on your credit, if it even shows up on your credit, because most of the time the lenders do a soft pull until we get right before time to get it clear to close. Then they do the hard pull. That's after we find the house. But in the beginning, you need to have a few different loan estimates for you to be able to compare so you can see what works best for you. And sometimes you don't know what's best for you until it's time to buy the house. I've had clients who had FHA pre-approvals and conventional pre-approvals. Typically, the FHA pre-approval will be more, and the FHA interest rate might be less. However, FHA is lots of times not the best way to go. Lots of sellers don't accept FHA, so you need conventional. One particular time, I had a client who had two pre-approvals, one FHA $450,000, one conventional $430,000. Now, the good thing about the conventional was with the bank that we went with, they did not charge PMI. So that kind of went to offset the difference on the lower interest rate with FHA because we did end up going with the conventional. Now, what was really significant about it was the house that we found was for $140,000. We didn't have a conventional pre-approval for $140,000, nor could my client be approved for it. But they did not want to accept the FHA, and we actually got the house for the $130,000 because that's how much he was approved with conventional for. And most of the times, in multiple offer situations, the seller will go with a lower conventional offer than a higher FHA offer because they don't have to deal with the FHA and FHA inspection, which is they consider it to be an appraisal, but they come back with conditions. With FHA, you may need, if you might have to repaint something because of peeling paint. You might have to have smoke detectors installed, a radar in the detector. You might have to repair a stair rail. There's so many different things that FHA may require, but they're mainly safety issues. Whereas with conventional, only one time have I ever had a condition with conventional, and that was because they said that it was mold on the bottom of the house. So my seller, well, my actually the way it worked out, my buyer, bought some kills, a roller. I would have done it actually, but he said he had it. So he bought the roller and the kills and he went out there and painted over what they thought was mold, but it wasn't. The inspector came back out, the appraiser rather, came back out, took a picture, and we closed. That was it. And that's the only time I've ever had conditions with like that as far as the condition of the house with conventional financing. So at the end of the day, the point of this video was to clarify what it is that I do and why. One, I am a real estate agent. Two, I mainly focus on listing properties, and I will assist my sellers with taking care of things that need to be done in order to get the most for the house, for them. I will list a little higher than what it should be sometimes, but my client satisfaction is utmost important to me. But I am also an accredited buyer's representative. I'm a seller's representative specialist and an accredited buyer's representative, and I'm also a military relocation professional. Roughly translated, a relocation professional, period, between all three. If there's moving that's required, I can help with that. Sometimes I can do it at no cost to my client. It mainly depends on the price point and what my commission will be, but I have no problem with working with my clients in that regard. Just as well, when I list a property, if the property is worth enough, I will provide a home warranty for the buyer. And that helps the seller because then the buyer is a little at ease. Say, for instance, the air conditioner goes out or the furnace goes out. With the Choice Plus plan that I pay for, but if the house is not, if it's not worth it, then the seller can pay for it or hire somewhere. But typically, it is something that I can take care of for my clients, and that helps to sell the house. I actually just sold a house recently by adding the home warranty to the equation, and the commission wasn't really enough to justify that expense on my end, but my objective was to sell the property and get the seller satisfied, and that's what happened. Also, with buyers, I will need a deposit because from the minute we sign the contract, you're going to be working me and it's going to cost me. And I don't have the money to fund people's empty endeavors. If you're serious, then I say, okay, you got 15 houses or 12 houses or whatever to look at. Now we need to look at houses that you're serious about, because before we go see anything, I'm going to pull up the seller disclosure statement, and hopefully there's good information in there to help you decide whether you really want to buy this house or not, because there may be deal killers. If you don't have a lot of money and the house has water in the basement coming in, then you want to just let that house go. We just keep looking online. It's not going to cost you to keep looking online, but we know that you don't want to have a basement repaired, sealed, and waterproofed. We don't know you don't want to have to go put a sump pump in. So we just eliminate that. Just like a roof. If you know you don't have $10,000 or $15,000 to replace the roof, then we can skip that house if it needs a roof. But if we get to the house and there's something that you don't like about the house, then that's fine. Even room sizes. The room sizes are on the listing. So if you see that your furniture is too much, the room sizes, we can skip that house. A lot of the things that we do when we search could be eliminated because my job is to make it practical and as professional as possible. I'm not going to show you what you're not trying to see. Some people get upset. They say they want to see it anyway. But why? That's not a good reason to go see houses on my time or yours. If you just want to see it, that's fine. But if that's the kind of searching that you want to do, you definitely want to do it with somebody else because I'm trying to get you done as efficiently and effectively as possible. Not quick, not try to make you just buy something because I have been told to just be quiet, let them go in. When they go in, whether they like it or not, ask, would you like to make an offer? I'll tell you, this is probably not the house for you if there's something about it that I believe that you're not going to be happy with. I don't want you to be unhappy. Like I said, client satisfaction is of the utmost importance to me. So, for my buyers, understand that we are looking intelligently based on the information that's available. And I'm going to get as much information as we possibly can. It's not like we out one day and you say, oh, well, can we go see this one too? I seen this on Zillow. What about this one? How many houses can we see? That's not the way it works. I have to do the research, do my due diligence. That's why you call it a professional. I'm going to do my due diligence first. And that will cut down on a lot of the showings that we don't need to go to. And that way, you won't use up 10 or 15 or 20, and definitely not 96 houses. You don't need 96 houses if you're looking for a house intelligently. You go see the ones that make sense, the ones that matter, the ones that you actually might want to buy. And you won't be waiting on me when it's time to submit an offer. If we go see it today, we're going to have that offer in by this evening if it's something that you actually want. Now, if you don't have extra money to put down as an appraisal guarantee, which I don't suggest you do anyway, I don't want you to start off with upside down equity. But just because the purchase price is a certain price, that doesn't automatically mean that the house isn't worth more either. You might have an agent who priced it low to get a lot of attention. So when they price it low and you come and want to submit a lower offer, you might lose out on the house if it's something that you like. And people don't realize that those $5,000 or $10,000 that they may lose a house for or haggle over, it's not like if you're buying it with cash. If you're buying it with cash, then yeah, $5,000 or $10,000 may make the difference. However, if you're buying it with a mortgage, your down payment is not going to change much at all, and your monthly payment isn't going to change that much at all. And when you really look at the big picture and you get your amortization schedule, you'll see how much interest you paid, how much principal you paid. You'll see the total number at the bottom, how much you actually spent. And you're going to be them paid with the principal and interest more than twice what the house cost. So you're haggling about $5,000 when you don't realize with $150,000 you paid more than $300,000 in the notes. So you're not worried about the extra $150,000, but you're worried about $5,000 that may keep you from getting the house that you absolutely love. Trust me, if we can knock it down and get you a good deal on it, we definitely will. But sometimes that's not what's important. Getting you the house is, because you might not ever get a house that's good like that. And you also don't want to miss out on a good deal just because it's the first or second house that you've seen. And you get down the line, you see 10, 15, 20 more houses, and you realize that was a good deal, and it's gone. That's why you have to have an agent that you can trust. somebody that knows the market and understands exactly what's going on. So many people come to me and they feel like they know a lot about the market, and I'm not trying to take anything from them. But this is what I do every day. If I don't sell a house, then I don't eat. My name is James White. I'm a realtor, aka real estate agent, a member of the NAR, the National Association of Realtors. I'm a member of NOCBOR. I'm a seller's representative specialist, an accredited buyer's representative, and a military relocation professional employed by Simply Home Realty. If I can be of assistance, feel free to contact me at 248-891-3876. Or you can visit my website at jwhitepropertysale.com. In the meantime, have a blessed day.